So welcome to a new video. Today's video we're going to be talking about what I would be doing if I was starting Amazon KDP or starting a publishing business in 2025, 2026 and beyond. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Chris. I've been publishing through Amazon for over 10 years where I've sold over 176,000 units, most of them in the last 3 years, paid units, primarily from selling coloring books. And before we start, if you want to be in the absolute best place that you can be, if you're serious about getting started with publishing and want to give yourself the absolute best chance possible being successful, feel free to check out the Raydog membership, which is at chrisraydog.com. You can get started for free. And you can see exactly why members are having the success they have by adopting these approaches, having the most success they've ever had with their publishing business, seeing some of the best book launches that they've ever had, some of the lowest BSRs they've ever had, all types of different publishers seeing all types of different success, people getting their books ranked on the first pages for the search terms that they are trying to target, utilizing the advertising strategies to get low cost per clicks, and just people that are starting to see finally some breakthrough moments with their publishing journey. And you even have members that have sold their first 1,000 copies, people who are getting their biggest royalty months so far, people have been having their biggest Q4s so far, people are starting to get their first organic sales, people have been getting their top new releases, and people who've even started to collect their first emails, which is a much bigger deal than what people realize. So if you want to check everything out, that's chrisraydog.com. Do that at some point during this video. So let's get into this. And the first thing that I would be doing, with all things considered, all things that we could consider, becoming AI first with our mentality and our approaches to publishing is one of, if not the single most important factors here. So I'm going to go into ChatGPT just to make a point in just a second. But when it comes to most things now publishing related, so content creation, coming up with ideas for your books, coming up with keywords, coming up with book titles, coming up with descriptions, creating A+ content, and of course coming up with book cover ideas, ChatGPT should be open on your computer, your laptop, whatever you're using. It should be open at all times whilst you're working on your publishing business. It's one of, if not the best tool that you can use. If you're going to put money into something, make sure that you put it into ChatGPT. And really, I'm going to try and make a point out of this when I come to the next sections of this video. But if you're going to put money into a publishing business, which you obviously should be doing, you need to spend that money wisely on what is going to help you move the needle the most. So in my opinion, we're going to get to a point, and that point is pretty much now, again, in my opinion, where we don't need to be spending money on things like research tools. And also, I think content creation tools are going to be a thing of the past as well, because I'm going to show you the stage that we're at right now that is accessible by every single publisher is pretty crazy. People that are going to be successful in 2026, 2027, etc., are going to be the ones that are thinking AI first. So just to give you some examples, if we're already at this stage where we can create things like consistent storybook characters, for example, I'm not saying that anything that I'm showing you here is ready to be published, but if we're already at this stage just through ChatGPT where we can do this, or where we can create very awesome simple scissor skill pages from just one prompt. So for example, I'm creating a scissor skill book, do a sample page of a simple image of a dog with cutout lines around it. We can already use this in an activity book. Okay, so super powerful stuff. Just think what things are going to be like in a year's time, 6 months time, 2 years time. Maze books as well. Again, just one prompt to create something like this. Of course, this is not going to be accurate. You're not going to be able to actually perform this maze correctly, but to make a point of where we are heading with AI, same goes for word searches. Same goes for logbooks as well. We're going to be able to create all of these, and for simple pages like logbooks, we can already create these pages already, and they're going to be much more unique than if you're getting them from one of those places that just sells the exact same interior to every single person. The same, there's just so many things here. There's just so many things that we can do, and creativity, I'm going to talk about this as we go through the video, is going to be so important. It's already been important, but now that we have these AI tools, it's going to be accessible by people that really want to make publishing work for them. Like people that are super serious, they're going to use AI, they're going to come up with some amazing ideas. And for example, I was just going through ChatGPT last night, telling it to give me a few hundred ideas, And eventually we just kept kind of niching down. And we came back with these like explicit, cute horror coloring books, which I think would do extremely well. I'm not going to read these off, but you just be picking one of these that you think works well for the niche that you're entering into or the audience that you're trying to target. And then you'd have the book created. Okay, so I'll talk about why this is all super important going forward. And the same goes for book covers. I'm going to talk about this specifically because this is terrible. We're going to talk about book covers and how important they are as we go through this video. So the industry is changing, whether you like AI or not. It's not something that I've ever been wild about, but we need to embrace it if we're serious about making the most of it. If we're really in 2025 and 2026 and beyond, if we're going to make publishing much easier for ourselves, if we're going to be in that small percentage of people that are ahead of the game, then we do need to embrace it, because I believe for people that want to adopt this mentality now, you're going to have the best chance going forward, even better than we've had in many, many years prior to this. As we go through this, I'm going to show you some really awesome stuff with the book covers. But first, what I would want to talk about and what I'd be doing differently if I was starting in 2025. If I was starting back in 2016, 2017, then I'd really be focusing on things like the niches, the hot niches, the keywords, and things like that, and doing BSR research. But I do think we're getting to a point, and this is something that I've almost completely ignored even for the last couple of years, are things like BSR research or watching hot niche videos or trying to find really specific keywords. I think we're at a stage where this is almost a waste of time and a waste of money if you're investing into research tools, for example. And it's going to be more so the case going forward from 2025. So I believe that the emphasis needs to be shifted toward like really high quality books. Of course, that's always been the case, but more specifically testing unique ideas. And then I believe that Amazon is going to be so advanced that Amazon will just do the rest and find your audience for you. And I think it is crazy. Like, I see people creating like whole Excel spreadsheets, finding all these different keywords and hot keywords and long tail, short tail keywords that they're going to use in their title, their back-end keywords. And I just think, from my experience of doing this and testing so many books on Amazon, especially recently as well, in the last sort of year, I just think the emphasis really should not be put there, because I don't think that it's as powerful as people think it is. The same goes for the kind of hot niches video. I think they very much encourage people to create the same content that's already been created. And of course, all of this is massively exaggerated with the perspective that if you can create one book that makes $50 a month, all you need to do is then go ahead and create 20, 30, and 40 books a month. And then you're going to be absolutely loaded from these niches. But the reality is that these niches, they're super, super saturated, super competitive. And what you need to do is get creative and test new ideas in order to stand out, which is something that people should have been doing for years. But with the advancements of AI, it just becomes a lot easier. I'm going to explain that to you in the upcoming slide. And to be completely honest, it might sound a little bit strange me saying this from a YouTube video, but I would stop watching YouTube videos, especially ones that are promoting niches that can make you X amount of money per month. In fact, I went down this rabbit hole myself, wasted 6 months, 400 books, and none of them were doing particularly well. Yes, you could blame me for that, but as soon as I changed my approach to publishing as per what I'm talking about in this video, that's when the sales actually started to come in, and it's been consistent across other people that have been successful on Amazon as well. So another thing here, if I was starting again, and one of the biggest game changers for me was to enter into niches that allow you to express your creativity or add value, which is why I hate the low content books. Whilst I do think people can make money from them, I just think that they do stifle creativity, and that's why I've taken the direction of coloring books myself, because there's infinite ideas when it comes to coloring books. And yes, it is a super competitive market, but if you do get it right, it can be very rewarding. And if you're part of a group of people that know how to actually do this to stand out on Amazon, you're going to massively increase your chances of being the ones that take the money versus the competitors, which is one of the main reasons why inside of the Raydog membership, I showcase my main pen name. I showcase every single book that I publish, which I know is a bit of a sin to do, but the publishing industry needs more transparency, which is why I do this. So for example, we have sold 85,000 copies of one of my best-selling books. That book is a coloring book. I do case studies on that book inside of my membership. I do case studies on my most recent book, which has sold over 8,000 copies, which is another coloring book. And the reason is because I want people to see exactly what it takes, not to copy me, obviously, but just to see the process, the thought process that goes into creating books that are destined to do well on Amazon. So these are recorded, all of these calls recorded. We have a live call every single Friday, which is included inside of the membership. All of these get recorded. We do different topics every single week. It's probably about 50 of these videos as well. And like I say, I do case studies for my books, whether they win, whether they lose. We want to be super, super transparent. We did a case study here about creating a premium book in under 7 days using AI. For example, everything I do, which is going to be going under my main pen name, all of these get recorded so people can see exactly what it takes. But yes, that is the reason why. That's one of the reasons why I like to get into niches that allow you to express your creativity or to add value into the marketplace. So what I would do in terms of research for 2025 and beyond is just take X type of book, look at it from this perspective. X type of book is popular on Amazon. Now, what can I offer this audience and how much would it cost me to produce this book? So for example, with a tiny bit of research, you'll be able to see that things like activity books for seniors are selling. What I would do, instead of looking for a very specific criteria or a very specific review count, I would look at this niche and say, yes, it's pretty obvious that people are buying these type of books because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of reviews here. The BSRs, they're pretty low for these type of books. Now, what can I do to add something different that this audience is going to like? And what can I do to create a better book cover? And how much is this going to cost me? Because I am aware that I need to create multiple books to make this work, okay? And the reason why I don't like doing the whole low content thing is because I don't know how much, maybe this is just my creativity. I put all my effort and creativity into coloring books, but I really think to myself, if I was doing something like a garden logbook, how much could I improve that? How much could I do to make it stand out? And especially with there being so many garden logbooks that ultimately serve the same purpose, what chance would I have of making those sell? So I'm not trying to stop people from doing that. I'm just saying this is one of the reasons why I like doing the medium content scene. So I'm going to go into ChatGPT. We're going to make a book cover together, or we're going to start making a book cover together, because the importance of a good book cover, it cannot be understated, because it is your absolute everything. And yes, I am aware this has the ChatGPT orange glaze. I'm going to talk about that. But potentially the book covers are going to be more important than your interior. Your book cover is the entry point to your sale. It's ultimately going to be like the very top of your funnel. It's the very first way outside of advertising to get people to click onto your book and potentially end up collecting customer emails. I'll talk about that toward the end of the call here. But in terms of a per page effort, you should be spending the most time on your book covers. And I think I spend around 5 hours per book cover, and then that book cover gets sent over to an illustrator to have things touched up. So for example, removing the orange glaze from ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is absolutely gold for this. I'm going to show you this now. So really, most of my days when it comes to working on the new books that we're publishing, they are spent on the book covers. I'll probably get to a point, in fact I am at a point, where I make the book covers first, and then I see if the book cover is worth going through with an entire project, make loads of book covers, and then go through the one that looks the best, basically that's most interesting for the niche that you're targeting. So for example, just from a couple prompts with ChatGPT, I'm saying create an 8.5 by 8.5 book cover for this image and call it Rabbit Moments, a cute coloring book for adults, author named Sally McClary. And then it comes back with this, which is absolutely terrible. Like, there's hardly any occasion where you should settle for the direct output from ChatGPT. So there's so many different things that we can do. Like, we can use reference images, we can take different prompts and use them. But what I did was give it a reference image from a book cover that I created as an example for the members. And then I said, give it this type of vibe, and it came back with this. So this is like the second or third prompt, and we're already getting to a stage where we're creating something that is looking pretty decent. So like I said, this is super important that you get this right. There's a ton of things you can do to make this better. I like to say to ChatGPT to give this some suggested movement, to give it like a light source, to give it more shading, to create more contrast between the foreground and background image. There's a lot you can do, and you can even ask it, what can I do to make this, what can you do to make this even better? And eventually you get to a point where you have a stunning book cover and not just settle for the same ChatGPT shit that you see on Amazon. For example, I said, what can we do to make this better? It comes back with a ton of different ideas. I never read any of these ideas. Don't waste your time and just worry about what the final output is. So again, this looks a little bit more fantasy, magical, but still has the orange glaze over it. So that would of course need to be touched up by an illustrator. But think about the production cost of this now. Like, instead of hiring someone for $200 to do an amazing book cover, we're looking at doing it for around $50 with these touch-ups. So really awesome stuff. And like I said, there's just so many prompts that you can give it so that it comes back with something that stands out. And again, super important stuff. One of the reasons why I've set up the Raydog membership the way that I have, because on the live calls, for example, last week, what we did was this Raydog review, which we do once a week. I take some of the members' book covers and I take them over to ChatGPT and I go through some of the prompts and I showcase exactly what I'm doing to make sure that we come back with a much better, much more animated and beautiful looking book cover for the members to consider. So that's what the Raydog membership is all about, is making sure that you have the ability to create something that looks premium and make sure that you stand out on Amazon and stay ahead of the curve. So again, if you want to check any of this out, it's all at chrisraydog.com. It comes with all the memberships. There's a huge, amazing Discord community that I've not even spoken about here, where you can get tons of feedback from other members and from me. All the course content is included so that you don't have to pay stupid amounts of money just to get course content. And of course, all the live calls are included as well. That's chrisraydog.com if you want to check it out. So next thing that I'll be doing, and this works alongside the advancements of AI, and this has always been the case where we should be creating a product, we test it into the marketplace, and then we repeat. It's really as simple as that. That's how the approach has been for a very long time. The problem with this approach is that it's always been very expensive and time consuming to find the winning books from creating, testing, and then repeating that process, because there's always been a failure percentage for books. No matter what anybody has told you, there will always be a failure percentage for independent publishers who don't have a huge email list, who don't have infinite amounts of advertising spend. Some of your books are going to fail. So whether it's low content books, where you'll probably find there's more failures, medium content books, and high content books, even high content books, they're going to have books that don't do well. So you really need to drill this approach into your mind, and it will reduce the emotional attachment that you have with your books. And ultimately, whether you like your product or not, whether your mum, your dad, your dog, or your sister likes your book, the millions of people in the marketplace is going to decide if the book wins and not you. Here's the great thing, especially with the advancements of AI, is that it's now easier than ever to find these winning books and these winning advertising campaigns. So for example, I currently have around 16 books in my main pen name, where 3 of them are the winners and rest of them, they slowly make their investment back. So when it comes to slowly making your investment back on your books, you need to make sure that you have a very strategic yet simple approach to your Amazon ads, which we'll talk about in the next slide. So to give you some perspective, I think it's taken me around 2 years to have about 16 coloring books made. Now, recently in the last sort of 6 months, what we've found is that we're creating books in around 1 week if it's a super simple book. If it's something slightly more involved, like a Coco Wire type of book, it's going to take us around 4 weeks. Now this, if you know how to do this, if you have a workflow in place, is super powerful stuff, which again, it allows you to create the product quicker, it allows you to test it quicker, and allows you to repeat this process quicker for a much lower production cost, which is incredibly powerful. But saying that, all of this that you do, there's no point in going through all of this unless you have a high quality, a good to high quality product, which is why if I was doing this again, I would want to be getting feedback from people who are actually successful, not people that are just bullshitting you and telling you what you want to hear. So a huge percentage of publishers who've been doing this for years have been failing for years. So you have people that they will just start and they'll give it 2, 3, or 4 weeks. They'll fail because their first book didn't sell. And then you have people that have been doing this for 2, 3, 4 years, who've been failing that whole time. So the reason that people don't do as well as they should do in the publishing industry is because we're so cagey. Everyone is so cagey, thinking that everyone else is going to steal their $1 million ideas. And what happens is that they get stuck doing the same thing for years and years and years, seeing the same results because they've not had any guidance to actually help them create better books that people actually want to buy. So while we do need to create, test, and repeat, as I've just said, and let the marketplace decide, there's ultimately only going to work for people that are creating high quality books. So yes, that is subjective, but only to some extent. Okay, so it's very important that publishers know where they are, and especially if you're new, because what we'll find is that a lot of new publishers, they rush into Amazon ads because they see people like Chris on YouTube or Sean or Barry, whoever, spending lots of money. I like these guys, by the way, no criticisms here. Amazon ads, spending tons of money on Amazon ads at a huge loss while providing the marketplace with a low quality offering. Now on Amazon, it is a visual competition, and you have to sort of gear yourself towards creating the best books possible, which is not as hard as people actually think it is. Which is why I've set up the Raydog membership the way that I have, to include an incredible Discord community where people can come in, they can get feedback on their book covers, their advertising campaigns, their illustrations, no matter what type of book you're doing. If you're doing word searches, activity books, high content books, you can come into the Discord, you can post and get feedback from me and other people who have been successful, and also other people who don't have preconceived ideas as to what works. And getting this feedback and not being cagey with your books, if you've not been successful especially, is one of, if not the most powerful ways to progress to a higher quality book, and therefore progress to making sales quicker. I can 100% promise you this. If you want to check this out, it's chrisraydog.com. So I'm active myself here every single day. I love to see what people are getting up to, love to see what people are doing with their advertising campaigns, love to see the book covers and the creativity that happens here. And it's just a very positive place for publishers to be. So this Discord community is all part of the Raydog membership, with the courses, the live calls, etc. It's all included here to make sure this is the absolute best, most transparent, most helpful place that you can be if you're doing the publishing thing. So the next thing that I'll be doing would be using Amazon ads in a very specifically thoughtful way, yet a very simple way as well. So I'll explain that, and I'll go into my account and show you here a couple of my stats from yesterday, for example. So we are not here, in my opinion, my attitude is that we are not here to give Amazon any of our money by running our advertising campaigns at a loss, because what people will do, they will run ads for a very long time at a loss in the hopes that it's going to help them make organic sales. So for me, I don't take that approach. I think if your book is going to take off and do well, it will do well quite early on, but you do need to read the metrics inside of your advertising account. So I would also have a very small budget per book. If I was starting off, if I was very new, I probably wouldn't even consider running ads unless I knew my book was very good, or at least a high quality standard. And of course, assessing your advertising stats is very important to make these decisions as well. So if I was to come into my account for yesterday, June the 2nd, 2025, the ACOS at 24% with a $30 spend, 17 orders. Before I show you, what I want to share with you here is the reality behind a successful, well, I say successful, a decent publishing advertising account. You'll be able to see that I have around 600 different campaigns that I've created in my lifetime of 10 years of doing this. But what I've kept on is the campaigns for 3 different books. So I utilize automatic campaigns, multiple automatic campaigns, and then a few manual campaigns where it makes sense to do so. But the reality here is that you're going to find only a tiny amount of books will work. Sorry, a tiny amount of campaigns will work that will stay at a kind of break-even point or a profitable point as well. So don't be afraid to turn off. Again, you do need to look at the metrics. So for example, if I come and take a look at one of my campaigns for this book here, we're going to be able to see is that this book has been left on since, when is this? Since October of 2024. In fact, the main campaign for this one was left on since 2022, I think, an automatic campaign. This is a manual campaign that I created off the back of it. So another tip here, I only create manual campaigns if they come from a successful automatic campaign. I'm not going to get into too much detail about that here, but basically we only create campaigns for winning products. We only keep them going if the campaign is at around a break-even point. So the lifetime ACoS for this campaign is 17%, which I know is actually just about profitable, which is pretty incredible. But also, whilst I'm running this campaign, what I'm doing is checking some of the following stats. I will check out the conversion rate, which is an obvious one. So for a manual targeting campaign, I like to see at least a 1 in 10 conversion rate. If the conversion rate isn't that good, I want to make sure that the cost per click can get down quite low. And on top of all of this, I like to see after the first couple of weeks of a book going live that we start getting some organic sales. So those are just some of the metrics that you can look at to see if your campaigns are worth running for a long time or not, because you do need to have some kind of stop in place so that you don't overspend on your ads. So if all of that was a little bit rambly for you, inside of the membership, the Raydog membership, we do have all the course content with all my advertising strategies, where we break them down into sort of 7 to 10 minute videos, just so it's super easy to understand how I'm running these ads, taking a look at the stop strategies, for example. And if you're new to publishing and all of this is a little bit much for you, we do have a back to basics course as well that is included. So we have all the course content that you could probably need to get started with advertising. We have case studies showcasing one of my notebook pen names that I made a couple years ago, showcase everything there, which is one of the easiest ways that you can get started learning the strategies, learning the niche research, learning the keywords, and of course the live calls are all recorded inside of this as well. Like I said, if I was new, like really new, and I had no idea what I was doing, I probably wouldn't run any advertising campaigns. And one thing that you can actually do is to publish the book and just let it sit there and see if it gets sales across other marketplaces. So outside the main marketplace, what I found is that if you start getting sales on the Canadian store or the UK store, it means that your book is probably taking off quite well, and it will be probably quite consistent across the other marketplaces. So if you could see that your book was getting organic sales in the UK and Canada, then you could set up some advertising campaigns for the US. But if you're more serious about this, you understand the quality of your book, you're getting into good niches, creating high quality books, then you probably want to launch the campaigns quite aggressively from day number one, okay? But either way, you still need to monitor those stats depending on the stage that you're at. So if you're brand new and you want to test ads, you want to test this, you want to be monitoring it every single day in case you fuck something up, change some weird setting, end up spending a ton of money, or do this weekly. If you're slightly more advanced, or if you're very advanced, I actually get to a stage myself where I'm kind of more so just checking this out on a monthly basis here, because like the longer that you can give a campaign, the better it will be. But you do need to have an understanding of the position that you're in to do the monthly thing. Oh, big hammer. What does this mean? I would be looking to build myself something brilliant, something beautiful, something that I could potentially exit in future while doing the Amazon thing. So there's nothing wrong with just selling on Amazon. Like, it's a great start. It's a great place to be on Amazon. It's a big marketplace. You can make some money on Amazon, but with a really few small amount of changes, you can totally gear yourself toward building an actual business. So no matter how slow it feels to have these things put in place, like creating a landing page and building up an email list, no matter how slow it feels, you're actually building something where you can collect the customer's details, customer information, and this opens up opportunities to connect with your customer base more, to sell more products to them, and ultimately create a more predictable income, which of course is a long-term goal, but it's a very, very powerful thing, especially in the next few years. It's going to be super, super important. Just to end this call on a question that I kind of asked myself many times, if the long-term goal, if we have a long-term goal of doing this, should we be chasing the money or should we be going with our passion? So for me, we have some people, it's more so the high content book crowd, where they don't like making the books. They have no interest in the content that they're creating, but they just chase the money, and that does work very well. If you are someone that is willing to grind through not having any enjoyment from what you're doing, I think that can work extremely well. I am not that person. I cannot sit at my computer researching chair yoga for seniors and creating books about chair yoga for seniors and be motivated to do that and to be motivated to create a bigger brand from that. I just can't do it, no matter how well that sells on Amazon, which is why I go with the coloring book thing. Not because I'm passionate about coloring books. I kind of don't ever do coloring books myself at home anyway. But I love the creativity. I love working with an illustrator. I love how you can connect this with a brand and how that connects with different products and different social media strategies and all kinds of things that you can do, especially with AI now. That's why I like the coloring book thing. And that's the area that I get into because I know that there is also money in coloring books as well. So really, I think it's a case of you need to ask yourself, what can you see yourself doing for the next 2 to 3 years at least? That is chair yoga for seniors. Then fair play to you. You can probably make yourself some decent money from those type of books. Anyway, that's it for this video. Make sure you check out chrisraydog.com if you want to be in the best place that you can possibly be for now and for your future. Check it out, chrisraydog.com, link in the description. Bye bye.